Hey, what's up, guys? Ash here, and today we're going to be revisiting my favorite character because there's been two major changes done to the game, and I wanted to kind of rebuild the Bloodbath build based on those changes and kind of fix a few gimmicks. Let's get right into it.
Alright guys, so right here is the original Bloodbath build, 55 out of 55, and as you can see with the new patch, they've given every character a new ability slot. To include Rey, but they set the level cap to 60 on her new ability slot. That's a different kind of discussion, we'll maybe get to that later. But for this particular build, you know, a lot of people are like, well, it's just one slot, how much can you possibly change? Actually, quite a bit can change, and the way that I go about my builds is basically I start in the ability slot. And the reason for that is you can expand attack, with Brazen Face or Hysteria. You can expand defense with Sophistry and Strategic Retreat. You can expand basic with Persuasion, etc., etc. You cannot expand the ability slot. So when you guys go to build your builds, I highly recommend that you do ability slot first and then go up from there. Alright guys, now in the second major change that they did, um, in the original Bloodbath build, Albus was using Darkness Hunter, and this basically was great for 46, 47, 50 violent, all because all of them were taking place at nighttime. But now that there's actually, a daytime violent, 52 violent, the most recent release, players want a little bit more flexibility and they don't want to go in with Darkness Hunter where it just doesn't do anything for them. So right here you'll see Skull Slasher, Forestallment, everyone will fire, and obviously Darkness Hunter does its thing, Albus doesn't even get hurt. And that's great, but that won't work on daytime maps, not just the crab map, but all maps in the future here. Alright, so this leads me into what happens when Albus doesn't have Darkness Hunter. Now, I've removed that, and yeah, I could throw on, like, let's say, Lightning Reflexes or something, but watch what happens. Instant death. There's was just no no recourse for that, and I'm gonna play it one more time just so you guys can see, because there's an important aspect here. Notice when the hits come in. So Albus blocks the forestallment. There's a ton of dodges, right? You're seeing all of the close fire from the Rangers go off. And he did lose a lot of health. He's at 1411 right here, which is not bad. But that big yellow line is Skull Eater, who's a sniper who has predictive fire. And that shreds block and all that stuff. On top of that, he does a ton of damage. And so from 1411, he gets hit for 1909, and then Albus is out for the count. And finally, now I'm going to show you guys what's actually changed. So right here, we're gonna activate Skull Slasher again, but this is using the new build, but not Darkness Hunter. Dodge on the forestallment. All the fire supports go off. Albus has lost maybe 100 health or so, 200 health, and that's it. And he continues on to just murder. And let's see if I can slow it down for you guys. But more importantly, the piercing shot from Skull Eater. Let's go back here. Forestallment 30, 87, 175. And all of that was either dodged or blocked, one of the two. And so this is all due to Seasonal Wind and the expansion of a new mastery set known as Circulatory System. Now, Circulatory System does a lot of things, but primarily before we had Windless Land, which is a singular mastery. Now it's actually been added into a set. Basically, it increases your block by 25% on shooting fall and throwing attack abilities, which is awesome. But if you combine it with Headwind, which lowers damage taken per distance tile, uh, and then you give the bonus to it, Windless Land, which adds an additional 10% block, giving you 35% block, and Headwind reducing it. Um, you basically get the result that you just saw with the snipers. And so the difference between this and the old build is that, Darkness Hunter was nighttime only. This is all purpose. You can use this all the time. And I think that's really awesome. It's also particularly awesome because not only is Circulatory using Headwind, but it also combines well with Second Wind. And anybody that's used Albus and tried to get him to live a little bit absolutely loves Second Wind. And on top of the damage reduction from Headwind, on top of the block chance 35% from Circulatory system, you're also getting Wind Wall. Wind Wall will give you 20% off shooting, fall throwing damage, and then an additional 10% from the set. So another 30% reduction just from bullets. Now, not only do they share Headwind together, they also share Wind Road together, which is even better because that means less slots that you're going to be using on your character. So not only is his ranged defenses just out of this world now, but I'm also going to show you guys what Seasonal Wind actually does and what the combination of Seasonal Wind does in Circulatory system, adding to it. So right now, I want you guys to take a look at the AT reduction as Albus fights. So right here, counterattack, you see the 6 AT come up right there, right? As Albus makes additional attacks, he will keep losing more AT. So he countered, you see the 30 for counterattack, and then now it's 10 instead of 6, like the last one was. And then this guy comes up, and it's going to be 14. Now, it didn't list it here, that might have been a game glitch or something like that, but just count the number in your head, it'll be going up by 4 each time. So on this one, this would be 18, as you can see right there. Now, let me pull that back. Yeah, you can see you guys right there. And the next one will be 22. And this will just keep going and going and going, of course. And every attack that Albus makes is going to increase the AT delay of Seasonal Wind. Now, this eventually becomes so powerful that you end up seeing crazy things like Seasonal Wind activating for 94 AT delay. Why would, eventually it won't matter that he counterattacked with 30 when he's getting 64 AT for it, or he's getting like 200 or whatnot. And if you use Albus like I do, this is insanity. Like, this is just total craziness. This means that anytime Seasonal Wind activates, Albus is getting his turn next. Like, that's just crazy, really. All right, guys, and then I wanted to show you one more thing about Circulatory system because this is really good. One, it is also reducing the amount of AT reduction for Seasonal Wind, just so you guys know. So it is, you could do it without the set, but why would you when there's so many bonuses to this and such good synergy with Second Wind? But notice now also Wind Road. Normally Wind Road just gives traveling more than 8 tiles, dashing will give you a little bit of wind SP, which is nice. Second Wind actually doesn't add anything to it, even though it is a requirement. For Circulatory system, however, it will automatically grant you acceleration, which on an Albus that's already losing 100 AT delay. If you're like 100 speed, you're now 130 speed. If your Albus is slower at 70 speed, you're now at 100 speed, and it pretty much doesn't ever wear off from turn 1 on. This is basically like having a free, Goldwing charm, the one that gives you automatic acceleration when there are no monsters around. Albus will have this up 24/7. So these two sets, we've seen Second Wind before and it was great, but now that it works with Circulatory system, now that it has synergy with Headless Wind and Headwind, the combination of Windless Land, the combination of Wind Wall, Haze for melee damage reduction, just makes this absolutely insane. And so, with that said, here is the Bloodbath version 2 mastery board. This is the best I could do. I actually thought Overpower would work well in this build, Unfortunately, Overpower is currently broken in the game, and that will probably get fixed. So this is the build that I'm currently using. And this is what I would like to kind of consider hard mode for Albus users. So if you're a little bit newer, I'll show you guys a different board. But if you're an expert user here, you'll notice there's no Catharsis. And with that extra ability slot that they gave us, I was able to fit in one strike, one head, which means putting a target that has not been damaged out of action decreases your cooldowns. So the short version is, if you strike once, you're going to get one strike, one head. You'll still activate basically what is Catharsis, and you can continue slashing. If you strike twice, you'll activate Bloodbath. You'll be able to continue, but you won't be getting what Catharsis would normally do, which is putting a monster out of action at any time. But this has worked really well for me. Circulatory system with Second Wind is really the biggest change here, and with acceleration, the block rate, the melee block rate, everything combined, it's just total insanity. And of course, as always, this does not remove the core of the Bloodbath build. It still has traces of blood. It still has Bloodbath, and just due to points, I actually put in Merciless Sword with Wound Infection. I'm not a huge fan, but Wound Slashing gives another 20% block shred following bleeding target, which is the whole purpose of the Bloodbath build. So no longer are you confined by Darkness Hunter, and you can do daytime maps, you can do nighttime maps. He's going to have regeneration when he gets low health. Like, it's just this endless slew of options. And of course, as always, you guys feel free to change this as necessary. For sure, the core abilities of this build, I would say they're mandatory. Offensively, Bloodbath and Traces of Blood, and then at least one shot, one kill. Defensively now, Circulatory system and Second Wind, and then supporting would be one strike, one head, or Catharsis. And then I prefer Judgment. The rest, you don't have to have Retail, you don't have to have Merciless Sword, you don't have to have Carry All before. I just find this works really well, and this is very optimized. I've gone through many iterations of this build to get this to where it is right now. You'll notice, support 11 out of 11, defense 11 out of 11, attack 15 out of 15. I tried to squeeze every point out of it. But if you guys are interested, this is going to be the future build, which I think will be for easier, more users will use this one. And so this still has the core, Bloodbath, Traces of Blood, as well as the defense core, Second Wind, Circulatory system. But I actually think that on this build, he'll be even better with Overpower. Nobody will really be able to get to him. Anything that can get to him, he's just going to trigger, Bleeding, and then Blade Storm, and then kill it anyway, but it will probably drop the Overpower. Unfortunately, like I said earlier, Overpower is currently broken. They're going to fix that, I'm sure, in the next patch. But I think this would be easier because this build incorporates Catharsis, and all you have to do is knock a target out of action versus one strike, one head, which is, it takes a bit more skill, and you have to know your enemy really well, how much it's going to do. So I also recommend this, and I think this will become the standard Bloodbath build. And then finally, I did want to take the time to show a kind of tanky build. If you guys notice, in order to make room for Circulatory system, I actually dropped Sword of Protection. And believe it or not, Sword of Protection works even better with this, but it was too defensive minded for my taste. But if you guys almost want to make Albus a main tank, you could easily swap this out. I would actually take out muscle training, put in body training for the extra health. But, if you guys can imagine, Sword of Protection, every time you block drops 30 AT. And with Circulatory system, Windless Land, where you're getting 35% more block than you had before, doesn't matter if it's day or night, you'll be activating Sword of Protection all the time, meaning Albus will be up all the time, to include triggering Seasonal Wind. So these three builds are excellent. I would even recommend Albus as main tank now, given the right gear setup and all that. But yeah, I think you guys will find some great use with all three of these builds.
Alright guys, that wraps up today's video. It went a lot longer than I thought it would. I try to keep these videos under 15 minutes for you guys, but this game has so much information. I'm still learning stuff every single day. If you enjoyed the video, please like or subscribe on the YouTube channel, and I also stream on Twitch, usually at night, sometimes during the day. But that's it for me. Until next time.